Alright guys, welcome back to Rome Reviews. I'm Rome, and today I wanted to talk about importing phones and using them or using them in a country that's outside of their country of origin. And just talk about my experience with them and just give you guys a little advice and just a little more information on my experience with importing devices. So we're going to start with the question that I get the most, which would be signal and cellular service and how does it behave? How does it work here? So I'm in the US, so I'll just speak from my experience here in the US, but I think the experience will be fairly consistent for other countries as well, because in your country, in your respective country, you will know which cellular services you use and which ones may work with other foreign devices. So in the US, it is AT&T and T-Mobile that work most consistently. Those are our larger cellular services. Of course, we have the smaller ones that use the towers of the larger cellular services. But just to keep things simple here, we're going to talk about AT&T and T-Mobile. Verizon is the other like really big cellular service that we have here in the US, but I typically avoid them because they normally don't work with foreign phones. They often, more often than not, work don't work with foreign phones. So AT&T, it works on every single one of these phones, but on my Vivo, I only get 4G. I hope that shows up for you up there, but you can see 4G up there in the corner. I only get 4G with AT&T, but with my T-Mobile SIM card, it works just fine. I get 5G and I get great bandwidth, great speeds on that. I and T-Mobile seems to be the more consistent one across the board. I get 5G on every single phone that I plug that I install that card into. I get 5G, but with AT&T, I only get 4G on my Vivo device. Not sure. I won't say I'm not sure. I think that's due to me missing certain bands, 5G bands that AT&T needs to use in order for it to get 5G on this phone. I won't dig too deep into bands because what you would have to do, and that varies across countries, you would have to look at your cellular services website and you could compare the bands that they offer to the bands that the phone actually utilizes. And typically, the OEMs for each of these phones will post the bands that they're compatible with down at the bottom. They typically put it at the bottom of their page. Like you have to scroll forever to get down to the bands that they show. But because the average person is not looking at that, they just think, oh, phone. I put my SIM card in and it works. But that's not always the case when you import phones. So that's what I want to talk about really quickly. If you're in the U.S., AT&T and T-Mobile will work with these phones. I haven't had a single phone where I install my card and it doesn't work right away. The next piece is going to be software. I want to talk about software mainly because there are going to be features and there are going to be things that you just sacrifice in order to use these phones because it doesn't come with the software that we're used to using in the US. Like with you in the US, even if you have an iPhone, you could use the full Google Suite. You could use the maps, the photos, and things like that. Gemini, and that experience would the more I would say the phone that I could compare it to more closely would be the iPhone, where it feels like you're downloading these apps as opposed to them being integrated into your phone, if that makes sense. So, for example, let me show you, I have Gemini installed, but it's not integrated into the phone. So, like, I can't say, hey, Gemini. It'll activate on maybe my Google Pixel that I have charging in the background, but it won't activate here. So you can't really use voice commands when it comes to Gemini. Now you can use it with the native apps that come on these phones, and maybe I dig into that a little bit more in the future. But I don't speak Chinese, so that would be tricky to dive into. But anyway, you'll see. Even I'll go as far as to like if I hold, maybe I have the voice assistant turned off on this phone because I can't use it. But what I did was, and this is something that'll be common across the board with these foreign phones. There's typically a workaround. Like for instance, I have Me CTS installed on this phone, and I have a combination of apps that allows me to long press the little button at the home screen button at the bottom, and it brings up Google Circle to search. That is not native on this phone by any means, so don't let that confuse you. There's just something that I set up so it will work. And I did a video on it. If you're curious about that, I may try to tag that somewhere just for you guys in case you're interested. The other thing is RCS messaging, text messages acts kind of odd on these phones sometimes when you try to set them up. For example, let me show you. I'll hold that. You'll see I have RCS configured, and I'm just putting my thumb over my phone number so that I don't have to block it out in editing. So you'll see that it's connected and everything's working fine. I have a video on that, but sometimes when you switch to these phones, sometimes RCS just will not connect automatically. And there's just a theme across the board. So something you'll have to understand when you import phones is, like I said in the beginning, there will be things that you sacrifice in it. And when you make a decision, whether you want to just go with your native phone that's there or you want to import a phone, just keep in mind that there may have to be a sacrifice that you may have to make in order to import a phone. Like I said, as I'm getting more familiar with these devices and I'm learning, I am trying to put more videos out there to help people get the phone set up to and put it in a space to where they're more comfortable with, what they're more familiar with. But it's still a work in progress, guys. So bear with me in that aspect. And let's see. So software, I'm trying to think. Is there? I feel like there's something else in software that I wanted to talk about a bit. Oh, notifications. Notifications don't just come through on these phones most of the time. Well, at least that's been my experience with the Vivo and the Xiaomi. Uh, Maybe the Vivo more so than the Xiaomi because Vivo, they are really, really strict on notifications and background activity, which background activities are what are constantly listening, constantly searching for notifications so they can let you know. On this phone, in order to help with the amazing battery life that you get on these devices, background activities are kept to a minimum. So you have to go into settings and you have to go to the app. And I'm just going to find an app just to show you guys. Let's go to messaging since that's the most common one that I get notifications about. So first things first, if you go to battery life, you will see, and we're going to go to background power consumption. I know people say that you don't have to touch this in order for you to get more notifications, but I want you to keep in mind for certain apps, just bear with me, just for certain apps, you do, you will, it actually says it here, intelligently control the power consumption of different types of apps in the background. This can save power. But a few apps may have a delay in receiving messages. It says it right there. So I understand that people say that, hey, you don't have to mess with that. Some people say that. It's like, hey, you don't have to mess with that in order to get notifications, to make sure you get your notifications on time. But it says it there. So for certain apps, like I know a lot of people worry about WhatsApp or other third party messaging apps. Just keep in mind that's one of the options, and I have a video on that as well. So I'm just working on, and I'll tweak my old videos as I find more information and learn new things. But keep in mind that I'm making these videos based on what works for me, and I'm just trying to share that information out. So don't come at me too hard. I'm just trying to help. So notifications is the other piece. And let me think. Phone calls, all that stuff, that's all related to like your cellular service provider. That stuff all works seamlessly. Now, the quality may be based on the chips in your phone and stuff like that, but I've had no issues with these phones. Now, I will say this. I will say this. As far as software goes, I do have the other Vivo, which is the global version. And let's see if I can remember my passcode to get in here. Yep. So I had to unlock that one. Let me wipe it off so you're not looking at fingerprints constantly. All right. So I will say that, hey, I could say on the global version of this, which has Fun Touch OS, I can say, "Hey Google," and it typically activate, but the phone is still starting up, so it may not work. So you can see things are still popping in. But if I were to hold the power button, you'll see Gemini comes up, just like it would if you were on any other phone or any other like US based phone that we get here, like the Pixels, the Samsungs, and things like that, even OnePlus, things like that. So when you're looking at these phones, I would say more often than not, if you don't like to troubleshoot your phone often or figure out things or tinker a lot, I would say look for the global versions of these phones. Now, here's where things will get tricky. Even though the phone does say global in some places, it may not have the full Google suite integrated into it still. Now I'm still tinkering. I'm still as I buy more devices, I'm still learning about them, and so I can give you guys more and more accurate information. But this phone, I would say that Apple, and I've talked to a couple of people that have the global version of the Apple, and everything works fine. Notifications work fine. You don't have to tinker. The Google Suite works just fine. So just keep in mind that that could be the case. Now, the other big piece of that is Android Auto. So I'll spend a little time in software, so just bear with me, guys. But Android Auto, neither of these two devices here had Android Auto out of the box. The Vivo got it in an update not too long after I got the phone. It got Android Auto and it works fine. But the Xiaomi still does not have Android Auto, and I haven't seen any talks of bringing it to this phone. So that's another thing. If you use Android Auto, just keep that in mind that this may not be the device for you. So there are things that you have to be aware of when you look at these devices. It just takes a little more research. Oh, the other piece of this is, and I'm just gonna move from software a little bit because I could spend all day on that. If there's anything that you want to hear about specifically on software, just leave a comment and I'll work on a video for you guys. I'm also working on my memberships and trying to make that be beneficial if you do sign up for a membership to my channel. Maybe you can request personalized videos. Hey, check this out. Look at this. Or can you make me a video? Can you send me a video on this? Or blah, blah, blah. I'm just thinking about that. I'm trying to work that in. So just bear with me as I'm still learning how YouTube works and what works best for you guys. But anyway, moving on. Importing a phone. I would say that since, you know, in the times that we live in right now, this process has become so easy. You go to a website that's, that's supported in your country. In the U.S., we have a few. We have like AliExpress, we have Giztop, Wonder Mobile, Geek Wheels, all these, just a few different websites. And what you basically do is you go to the website, order the phone. Now, there may be some changes in the future based on how tariffs and stuff like that plays out and how it impacts the prices of the phones. But just keep in mind that if you have your country of origin set, or if you go to these websites, you pick your country, it'll translate that currency into your the currency that your country uses. So you don't have to figure out what you're actually going to pay and everything like that. The subtotal that you see at the end of the payment, your total that you see at the end before you pay, that's what you're going to pay. Keep in mind that once it gets to customs and things like that, now depending on which country you're in, you may have to pay an additional tax to get the device in there. But in the US, I have not paid any additional taxes on these devices as they come in. The final price that I saw at the end when I was purchasing these devices is what I paid. So the process has been streamlined. It's really like straightforward. You're going to a website, you shop for the phone, you pay for it, you get it. Now, I will say this, that, when you're ordering a phone in your country of origin, like here in the US, it would be Google or Samsung or whatever. You order the phone and maybe a day or two later you have the phone. That is not the case when you're importing the phone. It does take a week or two. I think it's typically like 5 to 10 business days before you get the phone, but Yeah, it will not be immediate. So if you're looking for immediate satisfaction, this may not be the route to go. Now, I have seen the phones arrive as quickly as the same week when you order the phone or within a week, but just keep that in mind that it does take a little time. The other piece of that is ordering these importing phones is accessories. It becomes tricky to know what kind of accessories you're getting because even in the US you could look at a phone case online or Amazon or something like that, and you look at it and you get it and it could be different from what you were expecting, and you just ship it back, and a day or two later you'll have another one if you order another one. But these accessories typically take as long as the phone does to arrive. So keep that in mind. And sometimes the quality may not be what you thought it was going to be. And the same websites that you use to order the phones, you could typically use them to order accessories for the phone. Like AliExpress, for example, if you can order the phone from the website, and you can order accessories for the phone. So just keep in mind that it's all you're gonna do a lot of more tinkering throughout the process and figuring things out, and you have to wait a little bit longer to get the products and things like that. So what other piece that I want to talk about? So the experience will not be consistent across the board for these devices as they come into your country. Oppo has Android Auto. This one has Android. This one does not. This one does after an update. The Oppo came with Android Auto out of the box. Surprising. The global version of this phone is just basically like what I was used to. It has all of the Google features and everything. Like I said, I can hold the button and Gemini come up. I have the circle to search and stuff like that. So, and that's with the global version. But with the global versions of these phones that the companies send, sometimes I'll speak to Vivo because I have their Chinese version and their global version. I'll just speak to that one. The Chinese version has way more customization options and it gets updates way more frequently. The global version, while it does see, I have an update. Speak of updates, updates. It just pops up right now. I will look into that. Can I make it bigger? I'm gonna go to remind me later. So yeah, while it does, I actually feel like they've been doing a lot better job, a much better job rather, with updates on these phones. On the global version of this Fun Touch OS. But that being said, it's a nice size, almost 500 megabytes. So I'll look into that in a little bit and see what that's about and maybe make a video on it. But anyway, yes, this one has way more. This one just feels like a really dialed down version, just really straightforward. Now, I will say that you have some customization options here, and it's not bad. It's just you don't have a ton like I feel like you have on the Chinese version of this phone. On the Chinese version of this phone, you have a lot more. But I would say that there are features missing on the Chinese version that are not missing here. So, like you see how I can change my icons to that? I can change them here, but they only really work for like the native apps. It doesn't work for the apps outside of that. So it's give and take. But I will say that overall, this one has much more customization. But you're going to be missing like your Gemini and stuff like that unless you go through and tinker a little bit. Even with this, you have to go in and turn on the Google services. They are not on out of the box. But afterwards, you can install the Play Store and so on and so forth. Now, I will say also that these devices each came with a ton of bloatware on them. And you have to go in and clean all that up before you can get started setting up the phone how you want it to be set up. Now don't take this as me complaining because obviously it's not that bad because I keep buying the phones. Um, I feel like in my experience, it's worth the little trouble just to have more options, besides just the typical big three. I call them the big three in the U.S. because they're the ones that most people are aware of here. The iPhones, the Samsung, the Googles. I like having more options and seeing what these other companies are doing with their devices is just really, really impressive. They're trying things. They're being what's the word? I can't think of the word, but they're just being innovative. Innovative is the word I'm looking for. Really innovative. Like this Oppo Find N5, this phone is insanely thin, just crazy, just impressive. And I know people are gonna say what they want to say about like the ultra wide camera being so, you know, such a small amount of megapixels, but the camera overall, I mean, the device overall, cameras, everything are well balanced. I mean, they work well. Unless you do ultra wide a lot, then it may be a deal breaker for you. So each device will have their own deal breaker. Oh, the other piece of that, you know how you get your carrier deals and stuff like that, where you can trade in devices and get discounts and stuff like that. That does not apply here with these phones because carriers do not carry these, obviously. So you will be paying full price for these devices. So that's another piece that I know may be a deal breaker for people. But if you're buying these phones and you plan on keeping them for a few years and stuff like that, you will get your money's worth because they all are very powerful in their own regards. So that's the other piece. I'm trying to think of anything else that I may be missing. Um, yeah, I mean, overall, it's just it's just an experience, and that's what I feel like you're getting with these devices. Yeah, it's going to be different, but the experience overall, you will be pleased. Now, like I said before, when it comes to buying these devices, you will have to decide what's a deal breaker for you, and keep in mind that you are buying this phone. Don't let anybody tell you what you should buy. You are the one buying this phone. You have to use it, and you're spending your hard-earned money on it. So make sure you're buying what you want. Whether you're going with your local your local company, your local options there, or whether you want to go out and explore and see what else is out there. I mean, that's fine. Whatever you decide to do is fine. But just keep in mind that it's going to be different. It's going to be a different experience. And sometimes you may get the device and you may not be happy with it and you can send it back. A lot of these websites only have their own return policies and they're fairly lenient. They give you quite a bit of time with these phones before you have to return them. So that way you can get your feel about your feel for each phone or whatever and try them out and see how you feel about it before you commit, which is really, really cool. Now, I will say this. I haven't returned any of my phones, so I can't speak to how the customer service is with each respective website. But just keep in mind that they do have the policies listed there, and they need to respect those policies. And I'm really hopeful that they do. So if you've had any experience with returning devices or anything like that, please drop a comment down below and help people out. I want this to be a community where we all just come in and help each other and answer questions and as much as we can. If there's anything that you feel like I may have missed or you were expecting from this video, drop a comment. Now I'll make another video. I have no reserves about making another video. I just want to help as much as I can with this experience to make it as smooth for you as possible. Because I know that it's just different and people have reservations and they're hesitant. Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help as much as I can. I'm really trying to think of anything else before I cut out. One moment. All right. So one last thing before I cut out. I will say that each one of these phones that I did report, goodness, Rome. The all of these devices that I did import, they all came with a phone case, the charging brick, charging case and charging bricks in the box. And we're not getting that at the moment with the big three. They're barely giving you the phone. They just give you the phone and that's it. They may give you a charging cable, maybe. Sony does not. They just give you the phone and that's it. But with these, you get a decent case. You get the charging brick and you get the charging cable. And I feel like that's what's missing now here. I won't drag this out too long. I won't get up on my soapbox and talk about this too much, but I really appreciate that they send you things with the phone. And it makes your unboxing experience and your interaction with that when you first get that device just so much better. Those little things help a lot. They're really big on presentation when they send you stuff, and I really appreciate that. So anything else, So anything else, feel free to drop a comment and like and subscribe. And I really, really appreciate you guys tuning in to me. All right. And I'll catch you in the next one. Later.